And so what a watch then becomes is we can even have an advisory in part of our area and a warning in another part of our area. It just depends on what is expected. So in some of those higher terrain events, we could have a warning like up here in the Adirondacks, maybe in portions of western New England, but then an advisory down here through the Mohawk Valley, just depending on what we're expecting to get. But yes, a watch, we do those still as well. Good question. Then we have a specific warning threshold for ice as well. So throughout our entire forecast area for an ice storm warning, we would need at least 2/10 of radial ice or about a half an inch of flat ice. So Mike explains those differences in measurements and things like that. So as long as we're meeting these criteria, that would be warranted for an ice storm warning. So this is what's different for the 2024-2025 winter season. It's all part of this hazard simplification program that the Weather Service is taking on this season. And there's some paperwork in the back, some handouts on that that you all should have gotten or can get and pick up on your way out of here tonight if you didn't get some coming in. So essentially what this means is that the National Weather Service is going to consolidate and rename some of our cold weather products for this season. And why are we going to do this? Right? So the National Weather Service wants to continue to communicate cold weather impacts in the most effective and simple way possible. A lot of people don't necessarily understand the difference between it just being cold or wind chills, or not necessarily understanding exactly what wind chill means and how that impacts them. And so now what we're going to have is an extreme cold watch. So those watches, kind of like a winter storm watch, we're going to have an extreme cold watch instead of, an extreme cold watch and a wind chill watch is going to be consolidated to extreme cold watch. And so then we'll have an extreme cold warning and a wind chill warning be consolidated to extreme cold warning. So if you see an extreme cold watch and then a wind chill watch, what's the difference between the two, right? I don't know that I can necessarily tell you exactly what the difference is between the two of them, right? So it's confusing even for us. So, like an extreme cold, for example, would be extreme cold without the wind chill, essentially. And then, your wind chill watch would be, it's going to be really, really cold with that wind chill. So, but it's still just very confusing and hard for us to communicate, and even harder for the public to understand. So that'll be consolidated to just an extreme cold watch. Then we have extreme cold warning and wind chill warning consolidated to an extreme cold warning, same type of thing. Now we're moving ahead. Confidence has increased. We've moved through that watch period, and now we're 12 hours out or so, and we're going to issue the warning. And then we used to have a wind chill advisory. That's now going to be replaced with a cold weather advisory. So essentially, all this to say that we want the public to know if it's going to be really, really cold to the point of being dangerous, and health can be significantly impacted. Now we're just saying it's going to be extremely cold. Please take such and such precautions to be able to keep yourself safe. So this chart kind of describes or shows you just how dangerous those wind chills can be. So let's say we look at the temperature on here. So up here on the top, we've got your expected temperature, so in degrees Fahrenheit, and then we've got the wind chill here on the right-hand side. So let's say we were looking at, let's say our temperature is going to be -25 without wind, right? As soon as we start to increase the wind So these are our new criteria that go along with those new watch warnings and advisories for cold weather. So you can see for you guys here in the Mohawk Valley here, it's kind of split, but where you guys are, the cold weather advisory would be met with expected feel like temperatures of -15 or just regular temperatures of -15. And then for a warning, it'll fall within that, yeah, -25. So as long as we're either going to have temperatures that are just straight up -25, or if we have the wind chill kind of adding to that, then we're going to meet that threshold for a extreme cold warning. So, like I talked about, or like I mentioned just previously, having the wind can significantly drop the feel like temperature outside, make it feel a lot more cold than what it actually is. And that can have a significant impact to people's health, especially if you're not dressed appropriately, you have exposed skin or you're outside for prolonged periods of time, or even short periods of time when it's really, really cold. So under calm conditions, the body radiates heat, creating a layer of warmth between our skin and its surroundings. So without the wind, that temperature is not as bad, unless you're in that kind of -25, and then yeah, it's bad, and you don't want to be outside during that. But if you add the wind, that adds a whole nother layer of danger when it comes to being exposed to that extreme cold. So when it's windy, the wind moves across your body and it breaks up that insulating layer. It kind of moves the heat well away from you, and it speeds up heat loss by whisking away that warmth from your skin. And as it moves away from our bodies, then that hypothermia can start to kick in under prolonged exposure to that wind chill temperature. So as we said before, and like to stress throughout this entire presentation, is that your safety is absolutely number one. And so, while we don't want you necessarily going outside to record or see your temperature if your thermometer is outside or something like that, or we don't want you to go outside and call us and say, hey, it feels like -25, I'd be like, go back in your house, please. We want you to make sure that you're staying safe, even if you're just going about your day. Life doesn't end when it's cold. We know that obviously everybody has to go out and run errands and things like that, but it's best to try to stay inside as much as possible, but if you have to go outside, just prepare. So wind plus the cold will remove heat from the body like we talked about, and that means a quicker onset for frostbite or hypothermia. The feel like temperature of -25 or lower could close schools. So, we could have, especially if it's really windy and we can knock out power and things, schools might be closed warmer than that, but that's kind of what it starts out there. Um, Extreme cold periods that last 3 days or more is persistent cold. And a statistical component here, the daily average temperature is at least 2 standard deviations below normal coldest temperatures based on climatology for that given location. So that's kind of taking into consideration that extreme cold. So we're well below what it would be for the normal period, is what we consider to be extreme cold. Um, and just some additional impacts other than your health impacts for exposure to extreme cold. Frozen water remains under roads and sidewalks, so it could be potentially slippery travel conditions, walking conditions. Frozen water pipes in houses, schools, and other buildings could eventually burst. You could lose water, have flooding in homes and things, and lose heat. There could be an increase in fires due to alternative heating sources such as fireplace, kerosene heaters, use of gas cooking stoves for additional heat and things like that, and that could also increase just the carbon dioxide poisoning. So just make sure that when it's really, really cold outside, and it's going to have, even when we don't have those extreme cold watches, warnings, things, if it's going to be cold and below freezing, you want to make sure that you're really dressing appropriately so that you're not exposing yourself to potentially dangerous impacts from that cold. We did have an event for this back in February of 2023. This was my first negative temperatures that I ever highest there is 63 mile per hour gusts in Schenectady County. And that's, just to give you sort of a scale, that is the gust that would quantify a severe thunderstorm. So, we can definitely get really high, severe winds outside of thunderstorms, and that can be caused by these really large winter storms that we tend to get in the winter. All right. Before we move on, does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about winter flood events. Yes, we can have flood events in the winter, even though they might not be as common, or you might not think that they're as common. Flood fatalities, majority of them come from fatalities. Most of them come from fatalities, yeah. Most of them come from driving, thank you. So, luckily, we did not experience too terribly many in 2023 in comparison to a 2015, per se. But any fatality for us is one too many. So we definitely want to make sure that this is something that we continue to message to people. That's why we stress so much, turn around, don't drown, or don't drive in floodwaters. If you see water over a roadway, just best to just turn around and reroute yourself rather than trying to drive through something that you might not know how deep it is. So for us in upstate New York, a lot of times in the winter we get what are called ice jams. And so ice jams typically occur more in the spring, towards the spring. So when we finally start to see a warm up, and if we've got ice or ice that's formed over significant bodies of water, like a river, the longest Hudson River, for example, what starts to happen is that warm air starts to really break up the ice, starts to melt and move, and then it'll get stuck and trapped in the channels along the river there, and then that water's got to go somewhere. So usually it's forced backwards, and then major flooding happens well behind where the ice jam is actually occurring. So we get obstructions in the channel, islands, locks, bridges, piers. Bridge piers and docks can all be focal points for ice jams. We can also have them at changes in the channel, so a narrowing of the channel around bends and gorges, and then any significant change in channel depth, deep water to shallow water. So they can be pretty significant. So here are two examples. We've got one all the way on the left was a breakup. So a warmer air began to melt already formed ice over the river there, and broke it into chunks and then sent it downstream, and then that's what ended up causing that ice jam. But then we've got what's also called a freeze up. So we get extremely cold air over open water that results in rapid production of large amounts of ice that can jam things up downstream. So like I said, they typically are more of a spring occurrence, but we can also get them in the winter as well when we get that cold shot of air and can rapidly develop ice over the river there. So when does the ice break up? Basin daily average temperature is typically greater than or equal to about 42 degrees. And then the daily average temperature, we take the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature and divide it by 2. That's how that's kind of calculated there. There's two caveats, though. So one is that a quick thaw will result in some ice jams and flooding if the ice is thick enough, and long sunny periods with diurnal freeze can rot that or weaken that ice. So you could have something that's really, really quick and might not be super prolonged warm up. We could have one of those days where we had really You've got the jams kind of upstream, I'm sorry, downstream, and then you've got the flooding that occurs upstream because the water gets forced back. So we've had some pretty significant flooding from ice jams throughout our area. There's other examples other than the one here in March in 2011, and then one in 2018 there in January. So significant flooding we have had. We've had significant flooding due to ice jams, such as this one. So this is January 24th to 25th of 2019. So we have a surge of water and ice that swept down the Hudson in the twin hours of January 25th. And then it tore 10 boats off their moorings and sent them over the federal dam there in Troy. And some of the boats got stuck in bridges that resulted in the bridge closures during morning rush hour. So that was pretty significant ice jam for us there in 2019. And then February in 2019 also led to pretty significant ice jam flood. So this is one of our hydrographs. They actually look a little bit different than this now, but this is what it looked like here at the time. So here, this peak that you see that this arrow is pointing to was the jam release during the overnight of February 2022. So then when it released, that's when that spike of water happened, and we had that gauge reached moderate. It might be, I think it actually crossed into major flooding there. It's just really hard to, maybe is it, no, it's just under major flooding. So major flooding would have happened at 224 feet, and this crested at 223.82 feet. So we had pretty significant flooding because of that ice jam. All right. So we're going to move into all of the questions, who, what, where, when, and how to report to us, as long as nobody has any questions. Good? Okay. Awesome. So what happens when we issue a warning? So we start out in our office. We do a whole bunch of collaboration. There's a lot of offices that Mike showed you earlier that are around us, and we have to make sure that we are collaborating with them and have all of the different products kind of agreed upon, basically, so that we create a nice picture and consistent message for the people that we serve in our forecast areas. So once it leaves us, it goes to all kinds of different things, right? So we send things over to the state, the local governments, county governments, all these different government entities. News outlets get all of our things, and they broadcast it out to you guys, anybody who still watches the news, and plasters it on there to say, hey, here's what's coming. We also send messages out through NOAA Weather Radio still, and then we also send the products out that make it out to our website. So you can pull up our website and see a nice pretty picture of all of our multicolored hazards out on our map. And then once it goes to all those different things, then that's how you all get it. That's how you receive it. You might get alerts from New York State. You might watch the news, like I said, NOAA Weather Radio, looking at our website, all of these different things. So it kind of, all of our things, all of our hazards and products that you can go to our text-based version of the Hazardous Weather Outlook, or HWO. Spotters should use the quickest and most effective means available to send us reports. So any way that you can send us reports via phone, social media, we have a Google form that you can send us a report on as well. Any way that you can send us your report, that's how you should do it, whatever is most convenient to you, as long as you're doing it in a safe way. Um, Skywarn amateur radio spotters should not send reports, or should send reports to their county net control for relay to NWSALY net control if available, or relay by phone, mobile, web-based form. Like I said, just the few things that I mentioned there right there. So the image on the right there for you has an example of our hazardous weather outlook, and really what we use our HWO for. We don't put a ton of information in there. If we have a product out, really all it's going to say is please listen to NOAA Weather Radio or go to weather.gov on the internet for more information about the following hazards, and it'll list the hazard that we have under the designated day. But what you want to pay attention to know whether or not you're going to be activated as spotters is that bottom part where it has spotter information statement in red. And if we have the statement that says weather spotters are encouraged to report winter precipitation amounts to the National Weather Service in Albany, New York, that's when we want you guys to provide us with your report. If you would like to view the latest weather briefing from us and get a little bit more information about the hazards that we have out, the products that we have out, what to expect impact-wise, so if we're talking about snowfall rate, snow amount, the type, the characteristics of the snow that's going to fall, that'll all be enclosed within our briefing that's on our webpage. So you shouldn't have to scroll too terribly far, but if you want to see all the icons, you can scroll down a little bit on our webpage and then go to that bottom left icon, or sorry, bottom right icon there, and go to the weather hazard briefing, and then it'll have the latest weather briefing PDF, and if we have a briefing out, it'll look just like that major winter storm warning slide, and it'll talk about all those different things that you can expect from the upcoming storm. For the smartphone savvy, if you would like, you can save our webpage as an applet to your phone. We don't actually have an app, but what you can do is if you have Safari pulled up on your phone, there's this little, like, let's see if I can make it work here. Maybe not, maybe the other way. There we go. So there's this, in this yellow box, there's almost like a book type icon there in Safari. And if you click on that, you can select add to home screen, and it will actually add what looks like an app onto your home screen, and it'll actually be a shortcut to our website. So that's easy access to our website right there. You don't have to go and search for our website there on Safari. All right. So, relaying your report. I know a lot of you are also were also here during the spring Skywarn spotter training that Brett and I did. So hopefully this is just a review for many of you. But for anybody who's new or just needing a refresher, these are all of the ways in which you can relay your report to us. It's the exact same way that you would for anything having to do with a tornado, a severe thunderstorm, something like that. So we do have a spotter number in the office that we have access to 24/7. We keep that running. We do not turn our phones off, so any time of the day you can feel free to relay your report. Like Mike said, we're there 24/7, 365. So if you want to call us at 2 a.m. and say, hey, I have 6 inches of snow, please feel free to do that. So there's that spotter number there. We also have an email that we check every shift, and we keep tabs on every shift, so if you need to send us an email, if it's most convenient for you, you can absolutely do that. We also have a web-based form at that link there, and that can also be found on our webpage. So in all those icons, all the way anything that you might need to relay to us, kind of like it does in that paper route form that we showed you earlier. Social media is another great way to send us your reports, especially if you want to send us pictures. Unfortunately, with the web-based form, you can't send us pictures, but you could send us pictures if you have used email or either one of our social media platforms. So we have Facebook and then Twitter. Hopefully you all, if you have social media, are following us already. If not, now's your opportunity. That would be great. And then we do also have NWS Chat 2.0 or Slack. It's not available to the general public. I don't think that we have spotters in there now unless they are affiliated with like a media outlet or their emergency manager or something like that. Mike, I think I'm saying this correctly, right?
Yeah.
Spotters don't have, okay. So yeah, unfortunately that is not necessarily a way to do that, but we do have that as an option for some people if you were affiliated with some type of emergency management agency or media outlet. MPing is another way to send us a report, or for all of you, I know amateur radio is really popular, so amateur radio is also a way to send us your report. So here's a look at that web-based form option. So once you click that submit a report icon, it'll take you to this page, Report Weathersea NWS Albany, and then it has our email, Facebook, Twitter, all linked there, and then you can go to submit a report, and that is the form that you'll see there. So it'll show, have you click on your county, and then spaces for you to be able to list your location, where the event occurred, the event location, latitude, longitude, if you know it, and then there's additional, let me see if we have this, yeah, there's additional tabs on that form that you can go through and just put in the details of your report. So, when you send us your report, these are the three main questions that we need to know. First, what are you reporting? Pictures are helpful, especially if you're reporting ice jam flooding. That can tell us a lot. A picture tell us 1,000 words, especially if it's in one of those places where you know, ice is butting up against a bridge or something like that. That can help us with location and can certainly help us just with a bunch of other things that we then need to do in response to report of an ice jam flooding. But yeah, major importance is what you're actually reporting. Are you reporting snow, freezing rain, flooding, etc.? Number two is, when did it occur? So you saw in some of those videos that you might not always be available to take a snow measurement right when the snow ended. But if you have a general idea of when the snow ended and you're taking the snow measurement a couple hours later, just let us know when, not when you took the measurement. I mean, you can let us know that too, but try to let us know when that snow ended up falling. And then letting us know too when you were able to take the measurement in reference to when the snow stopped, then that would also be really crucial information. And same thing with freezing rain or sleet and anything else like that. And then where did the event occur? So that's also extremely important. If you don't have the latitude and longitude, that's okay. Some people feel comfortable enough sending us their address if it's if the event happened at your house. So let's say you're measuring snow at your house. Some people are comfortable sending us their address. We do not publish addresses. What we do when we log reports is we'll actually translate it to the latitude and longitude, or we'll put a more general location for that. So if you feel comfortable sending us your address, that's perfectly fine. If not, we totally understand. Just know that if you do, we do not publish that anywhere for safety reasons. Reporting criteria. So there's a couple different, there's different criteria for each thing, or for each type of precipitation. So for ice accumulation, we want to know any glaze or accumulation on surfaces. Are you measuring flat or radial? So any type of accumulation that you have for ice once every 6 hours, and at the end of the event. So with your storm total snow, if you're taking it every 6 hours, we'll just add them up, or you can add them up yourself and send it to us at the end of the event. But you want to make sure that you also take a measurement at the end of the event, just to make sure that you've accounted for everything since taking it every 6 hours. We know that it can be difficult to do measurement every 6 hours, right? Snow happens overnight. You want to go to bed. We want to be in bed, but sometimes we're awake. But if you are not taking it quite every 6 hours, it's totally okay. Again, just let us know kind of what that timeline was of how frequently you were taking the measurements, and let us know what that total was at the end of everything. In terms of rain, heavy rain, we consider to be measured an inch or greater, so that we definitely want to know. And then flooding, if there are streams, creeks, rivers that are out of banks near where you are, or if roads have poor drainage flooding on them, by poor drainage we mean if a road kind of dips a little bit, or there's let's say like not really a drop off or something like to kind of block water from kind of running off the road. Then if it's just kind of standing there, that would be poor drainage, just kind of in a low-lying area that typically floods. Now, if you've got running water that's rushing over a road, if roads are washed out, or you can look at down a road and you see pretty significant amount of water, that's something we also want to know. It's not just poor drainage. We want to know that there's rapidly flowing water on roads as well. When referencing locations, like I said, be as specific as you're comfortable with. Like I said, we don't publish anybody's address for safety reasons, but if you are not comfortable disclosing your exact location, that's totally fine. Just try to give us as specific as a report as you're comfortable with. In doing that, if you're not going to give an exact address, reference the nearest street intersection, or block number, mile marker, or a latitude and longitude if you know it as well. That can be extremely helpful for us. So when you're probably wondering, or you might be wondering, when you send us a report, how does that help us, right? Well, it can help us for the forecast process. If we're in the middle of an event and you're reporting more snow or less snow than what we were anticipating in that area for that given time, then that's going to help us move forward and going to help us to kind of adjust our forecast, see what we need to change, if anything. But the other thing too is that your data has to be certified by the NWS to be used for disaster assistance, right? So myself, and if anybody remembers Brett, who was here with me in the spring, we are in charge of what's called storm data at the office. So all of your reports, all the reports that we get throughout the entirety of an event, we combine those into a database that then gets used to make things like disaster plans for mitigation, community resilience, all of these things that kind of fall into making a community weather ready. So that is extremely helpful to know exactly how an event occurred, what happened, what were the impacts, so that we can then continue to grow this weather-ready nation, and look at certain things like risk and disaster resilience assessments, public information, warning, all of these different things that kind of go into this weather-ready nation that help emergency managers to be able to work with us to prepare communities. So very quickly, we'll go through COCORAS and MPING. COCORAS, there were brochures in the back. Hopefully you all grabbed one. If you are not a COCORAS observer already, we highly encourage you to join the COCORAS program. That is another way, like Mike showed, to send in your reports. And we keep close tabs on COCORAS, and we use the COCORAS data to also kind of rope into that storm data and bridge the gap. We might have people who are